Bula Vinaka and Namaste. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Tonight we will talk about one of the most basic needs in life, and that is water. Water supply has been on the news every day, and recently we've heard about water restrictions and water prohibition notices on top of water disruptions. We are very grateful that this evening we have the Chief Executive Officer of Water Authority of Fiji, Dr. Amit Chanan, with us, and also WEF's Chief Operating Officer, Seru Soderburg. Gentlemen, thank you very much for availing yourself. I know you are really busy, and our audience, listeners and users are looking forward to your explanations and what is the situation as far as Fiji's water supply is concerned. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Dr. Amit, you've come from Sydney. Just a quick question. Sydney water, you were looking after that, and Fiji water, totally different. Why did you choose Fiji?
Look, I think in terms of Fiji's water challenges, given the climate change impacts, it is a challenge in itself. So professionally, it is rewarding to be able to address some of the issues that Fiji is facing. In moving to Fiji, I was aware that there are some key climate change impacts and there are some infrastructure challenges. My professional background is in all of those areas, so it is quite complementing the skill set I bring to the role. And I am really enjoying working with the team, and there is significant work to be done. There's no ifs or buts about it, but I think we do have a plan, and the plan is to start turning the corner in terms of our infrastructure needs and making sure that we build climate resilient infrastructure so that not only for today, but for the next 30, 40, 50 years, we have water supply that can meet the future needs as well.
Seru Soderburg, you've been with WEF for a number of years, a lot of challenging situations. You're at the forefront of that. How have things been?
Just further on to what Seru had mentioned, it's a big challenge working for an organization like WEF, and especially with the need, the water supply being a basic need, and apart from that, it's also part of the Constitution. We are required by the Constitution to provide water supply. The challenges, is really big in terms of our infrastructure. I do take note of the comments that is passed by our customers, talking about leaks and the amount of leaks that we have on the road and how fast we actually get into these things. And it's something that keeps me up late at night and gets me up bright and early to have a look at what is the water supply situation is, especially here in Suvarnasori, and what needs to be done to actually rectify those issues.
It is a constitutional requirement, you rightly put it. We'll go straight into it. What is the situation with the water supply, mainly in Lami, Suvarnasori corridor?
Look, the best case scenario for Lami, Suvarnasori area is that we have a production capacity of 170 million liters. And we produce that's a daily production capacity, and that relies on two of our plants, one being Tamavua, another being Vaila. And we run those plants to 110% of their design capacity to be able to produce 170 million liters every day. But the demand for that Suvarnasori-Lami corridor now is at 173 million liters. So the best case scenario is a daily gap of 3 million liters, which we only are able to compensate by having intermittent supply in some areas so that everybody can get some water. Now, people might say, okay, if there's intermittent supply, what has happened lately? So what we are dealing with at the moment is unusually dry weather. So for example, today our production is 162 million liters. So that gap, that is the best case scenario gap of 3 million, is actually today at 11 million liters. So that's why we have to have prohibition notices, encouraging people not to use water outdoors, don't wash their cars, don't wash hard surfaces. That's why we also have to do rationing in the upper elevated areas along Princess Road and elevated areas along Lamy, because the gap is about 11 million liters, and there is no water supply system in the world that can deal with that sort of gap without impacting people.
You've come from Sydney Water. What's the gap there? Or what's the backups that maybe we can aspire to?
I think what we can aspire to certainly is the diversity of supply. If you think about Sydney's water, I mean, it's a good question. If you think about Sydney's water source, so Sydney has dams, and those dams can store about 5 years of water supply. So if it doesn't rain today, and if it doesn't rain for the next 5 years, there's enough water in the dams to supply. When you think about the water supply system for Suva and Asori, when the water supply was built, it was the rain or weather patterns in the east were so distinct that there was reliable wet weather. And the west, we knew that there is period between April and November when it's going to be dry. So we built a dam in the west, Waturu Dam. But there is no dam in the east. I mean, we do have small headworks where we retain some water, but they are not large volumes. The system primarily relies on runoff river, because there was enough rain, there was enough water in the river. And what we're finding now is that weather has turned on its head. So reliance on rivers is no longer climate resilient. So what we need to do is not only look at building some additional storages, we also need to look at other sources like groundwater, other sources like possible desalination, as well as rainwater tanks, so that we can diversify our water supply source to build some resilience. At the moment, we are really exposed because all we have is runoff river water supply, and that's not really a very diversified source.
Seru, why have we reached this point? Do you think we're playing a catch-up game? 6 hours of water in a day just around surrounding areas of the capital city?
What I can say is with the lack of rainfall, that has really put us at a disadvantage. And with the lack of redundancy, such as what Seru had mentioned, we don't have enough storage of raw water to provide us with that security over these times, these spaces of time. And the 6 hours of supply is sort of the base case scenario for our customers right now, because production is at its lowest as we speak. But as and when it starts raining, we are able to then build some level. But over the last 2 weekends, you would have noticed that there's been some rain events that's happened for the Suva and Asori system. We were hoping that these particular 2 rain events would have replenished the sources for us. Unfortunately, the first rain event, which was quite a significant one, which was last week, our dam level came up, the river level came up, but within a space of about 3 days, we were right back to where we were the week prior to that. And we had some rain last weekend, but unfortunately, again, by this morning, as our team are going out there and taking flows, we're noting that it's another downward trend. It hasn't really replenished the sources. So the challenge is, because we are unable to produce enough, we are unable to extract enough water, the customers is going to get impacted.
So why we got there is because we did not have diversified sources of water. So we definitely have over-reliance on river water, and that too predominantly on Baimanu River. So most of our eggs are in one basket. So we just need to look at that long-term strategy, and that's what we're also doing at the moment in terms of developing a Water Sector 2050 strategy, which is about the type of infrastructure we need over the next 30 years. And one of the key ideas that coming out of that is diversify our sources. We can't keep relying on just surface water and just one river. So, for example, the project that is currently underway, which is Virya water supply project, we are actually moving to river, a different river, much bigger river, much more reliable flows. And we are also building that intake about 50 kilometers upstream from the river mouth, because it's outside the tidal influence. Because we know that there will be climate change, there will be rising sea level. So that's actually catering for all that. But that's not going to be enough in the next 30 years. We also need to look at groundwater and other sources as well.
Now, what plans are in place for the people of Suva, Lami no Sori? They're watching, definitely have their own questions based on their household needs. Most affected and largest population in Fiji. What plans are in place to deal with the water cuts in the interim as you update the infrastructure?
So, and I'm sure Ku can sort of add to it, but what we're doing at the moment is there is water rationing happening. So, what happens when our production goes down? The areas which are higher areas along Princess Road, so from pretty much Tadiru all the way to Doloisuva, they get hit the hardest because they rely on Tawada pump system. So we have booster pumps that supply to those areas. And when the production is low, our mother reservoir at Benibuku does not have enough water at the right level for the booster pumps to operate. So we stop operating those pumps because if we keep operating them, they'll burn. So what we started doing immediately was water carting to these areas, and then Seru and I went around to these informal settlements along Rongton and Tadirua and spoke to people. One of the concerns they raised was that, especially in the informal settlements, water carting is not the best option because the water carts really can't get to everybody's house. So what their request was, if they can get water through taps, even if it is for a few hours a day, that's better than them running with small buckets up and down the streets. So that's what we've now done. So what we're doing is we are carting water to these reservoirs and then we are supplying water 6 hours a day so that people, especially in the informal settlements, who can't rely on water carts getting to their house, at least have reliable 6 hours of supply. And that is what we'll have to unfortunately continue working with until the weather gets better. And I think Seru has been monitoring the weather very closely. Perhaps you can.
So while working with our team from FijiMet, what the primary question was, while we were going through the data from FijiMet, was why is it that the Central Eastern has not had significant rainfall over the last few months? And while we looked at the western and the northern region, they've been having above average rainfall, which is sort of a new scenario for us. And while we were looking through this, the forecast and the predictions by the team at FijiMet, what we also noted as part of the updates was that over the last month and a bit, there has been a significant how do you say this, in terms of wind direction coming into the Fiji group. We're used to the southeasterlies. The southeasterlies is what provides the cloud that, provides the rain that is required by the Central Eastern. But over the last month and a bit, what we've been experiencing in Fiji has been northeasterlies. And northeasterlies is what's bringing rain to the western region and in the northern region. And we are having below average rainfall and well below average rainfall for the Central Eastern. And just taking on to what Seru had mentioned, in those walkarounds we've been doing with our customers, some of our customers, they live about 300-400 meters away from the road. So the water cutting option was definitely not a thing for them. They find a challenge in buckets depending on the age of the family members, and water cutting, because it runs late into the evening, it becomes inconvenient. So when we looked at the whole situation, we figured that, look, if we fill the reservoirs and provide them with 6 hours of supply, that at least it gets to the tap, they can use what they need at that time and fill that would ease some of the concerns. Because some of them, we do feel calls where some of them say, I've been waiting for a water cut. I called in yesterday, still is not here. Or some of them will say, we have not had water cutting for 2 days. And it's because, and then when we go around, we're noting these are the customers that's actually located a significant distance away from the road. So they don't always know that the water cutting is there. And when they do come, they are waiting for an extended period.
It's quite a sad sight to see. Yeah. Like along Tadirua, if you go after 10 o'clock at night and you got little kids still waiting with buckets and waiting for the truck to arrive, and it is very concerning that continues to happen. Is water rationing and restrictions that have been placed, are they working? Because, okay, water rationing, you have control over that. But the water prohibition notices, there have been complaints. People are calling us up that, oh, my neighbor is still washing the car, they're still, watering the gardens, etc. What can you do to ensure there's proper enforcement? You have law-abiding citizens who say, okay, I have to help WEF, while right next door to them, something else is happening.
Yeah, I think, our legislation does allow us to, take those prohibition to the next level in terms of fining and potential prosecution. But our appeal is to make sure that everybody take heed of the situation and respond to what we're asking. There is generally, when you walk around streets now over the last week, certainly you don't see anyone washing cars or washing hard surfaces. So there is certainly community is reacting to it, and from WAF point of view, our expectation and hope is that people will listen to the message and work together rather than us becoming big policemen out there. So again, I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody to just be part of the solution. Avoid outdoor water use, avoid washing your cars and driveways while we're going through this dry spell.
Taking off that, I fielded a few calls over the weekend from some customers concerned that their neighbors have been using water blasting. I've taken the time to actually reach out to the customers that have been using their water blasters over the weekend, and just explaining to them about the prohibition notice and why it's important to actually conserve it, because there's a significant amount of people in Suva that do not have that 24-hour supply that they're enjoying at that point. But in terms of our approach to actually enforcing this, one of the scenarios that we have spoken about is that we will, if the adherence to the prohibition notice is not adhered to by a lot of our customers, that they completely ignore it, then we'll look at options of working with probably the Fiji Police Force. We'll be approaching them to see if we could work together in enforcing the prohibition.
When will you do that?
We haven't. We're looking at our current situation at the moment. Right now, with what we can produce, we can do the water rationing for those up at the top. But if the situation worsens than what we have right now, then we will start implementing.
It's already scary if Dr. Amit is saying 11 million liters. If we continue to face this scenario, the gap continues to widen, it will become an emergency situation, right?
Yes, so we are monitoring it very closely. At this stage, as I said, there is certainly community is responding. So while there will be few far between people who are slow responders, but by and large, community is responding, and this is another opportunity for us to make that appeal, to listen to our calls and please work with us in reducing the outdoor demand.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. In studio tonight. We have Dr. Amit Chanan, the WEF CEO, and Seru Soderburg, the WEF Chief Operating Officer. These are the comments made in Parliament by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Professor Biman Prasad. Thousands of our citizens know at first hand our problems with water. They suffer every day from water cuts that affect not just their family lives, but economic productivity. We have just heard from WEF that about half of the water that it carefully treats and prepares for us leaks through old pipes and into the ground. It never reaches our taps. In the next 5 years, we need to spend $800 million on our water systems to keep them going. What are your comments on that, Dr. Chanan? Was proper planning done before? Was adequate budgeting and funding provided that we have ended up with this now?
Look, I think the comments made by the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister are spot on. We certainly have a challenge. And I totally agree with what the comments state, that we do need to invest in water infrastructure. If you think about our pipe network, and we have done through support from Asian Development Bank, we got global experts working with us on non-revenue water, which is the water that gets lost due to leakage. And we can see when we compare ourselves with the global benchmarks, we are really in another sort of paddock. Like if you compare, the burst mains, so 400 kilometers of 100 kilometers of water main. The global benchmark for burst mains is 13, and we have more than 200. So not only a few times, multiple times more than what the global benchmark is saying. So with the leaks that we have, we lose close to $23 million just by the sheer fact that we've invested in chemicals, treatment, pumping, electricity, and all that water gets lost. The only way to fix it is to invest in NRW reduction program. Right now, based on our existing workforce and our existing budget, the number of leaks that we can fix is less than the new ones appearing. So if we keep doing the same, we'll never be able to catch up.
Is it a band-aid solution? You've been with WEF for quite some time. Have we had band-aid solutions over the past years?
I might just jump in there. I mean, there's no point thinking about what was the past. I mean, we do have a solution.
We have to understand that we've reached here because of neglect. So we need to understand that this is what caused it, and
okay. So first solution first. So we do have a solution, which is through support from Asian Development Bank. We are actually going out to market, and Seru is working on that, a performance-based contract to get some expertise, real global expertise, to help us catch up and make sure that our network is secure and not leaking like sieve. And we will go to market and have a 3 to 5 year contract, which will allow us to catch up. In terms of how we got here, there is no ifs or buts about it. Underinvestment is primarily the reason why we got here. So if we can get that investment right and we put in place a performance-based contract, we will be able to fix it. It's not unfixable, it is fixable. There are other utilities around the world who had been in a similar situation. With the right investment and right expertise, they were able to fix it within 5 years, and we can do the same.
Seru?
So as stated by our CEO, there has been underinvestment in key areas such as non-revenue water. Non-revenue water is a crucial aspect of providing water supply to customers. That if we don't manage it well by providing the resources in terms of finances, that is where we will basically lose the game. So it has been an underinvestment in that particular space. And also the infrastructure we currently have, we have about 4,000 kilometers of pipeline around Fiji, and a significant volume of that asset is either asbestos concrete or the old PVC pipes that's been in operation for a good 20 to 30 years. And while one of the things that we're currently doing at the moment to be able to provide water supply to customers is valve operations. And the fluctuation in pressures with these old assets, they don't really go hand in hand. The valve operation in terms of increasing pressure, decreasing pressure, because we're trying to fill reservoirs in the evening, is also playing a part in a lot of these leaks actually appearing, because the old assets are giving up because of that being subjected to high pressures in the morning when we reverse valve operation, and then we reduce that pressure in the evening. Yeah? So it's a combination of underinvestment in non-revenue water. The aging infrastructure that we have is what's basically brought us to the situation we're currently in.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
What I did in 2006 is to clean up the mess in the study.
When there has been Itoke leadership, everybody has been embraced.
He cannot stomach the fact that he's not in government.
You said that you couldn't pay out bonuses, but this shows an increase in board directors' fees.
You are wanting to lead the country, not me. I'm asking you the question again, back to corporal punishment. Right. What's your stand on it?
DG First cannot intervene into a personal matter.
Absolutely you can for small businesses.
I was very surprised when he came out with that statement that I would conduct a coup if I lose. Not
Hand
me.
on your heart.
It's him.
No, you're a joke.
No, you are a joke.
You're a joke.
You're a joke. Don't bring that up. We don't.
No, I gotta bring it up. You were commander.
But yes,
Every military officer and serviceman at the time was under your
you've
command.
forgotten you trained them.
Bulu Vinaka. This is Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan.
Fiji Village Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan. Watch it live on the Fiji Village Facebook page.
Welcome back. This is Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight Water Authority of Fiji CEO Dr. Amit Chanan and Water Authority of Fiji's Chief Operating Officer Seru Soderburg. We're talking about water supply tonight, and it concerns majority of our population. This question that came through Satish Kamal, his question is, Dr. Chanan, a question to WEF, why the 5777 number is a paid line and why not toll-free for the customer to have easy access for water truck services and repair purposes?
My apologies. Just on there's two numbers that you can contact at WEF. One of them is 5777. The other number, which is free, is 1508.
1508 is the free number from a landline or mobile phone. So 1508, that's the number. There are two questions. Diana Bonivate had also asked about that. So that's clarified. Diana was saying they notice a lot of burst mains or burst pipes, and to help WEF, they want to call a number, and if it's a toll-free number, it makes things easy for WEF as well. So a bit of concern there, but you can call 1508 and it's a toll-free line. Thank you very much, Seru, for that.
If I could just add on that, we also have a app, WEF app. Most people who have smartphones, that app also allows you to just take a picture and submit any leaking pipe. So that's another way you can contact us, and it's free of course. So you can download our app on a smartphone, and if you're walking past a burst main or leaking pipe, you can just take a picture and submit it from the app as well.
There you go, a few solutions right there for you on how you can assist WEF with these concerns about burst mains if you notice them, and how you can quickly take that information back, which is we are grateful for that citizens are coming forward to assist WEF in that. David Jones from Pacific Harbour, he says, I reside at Villa 226 Hibiscus Drive and experience consistent low pressure or no supply at all. When will the supply be corrected?
So for Pacific Harbour, there's three systems that's currently in that Pacific Harbour region. So we have the Ndeumba system, Pacific Harbour system, we have the Nayangi system, and we have the Navua system. That is one major system together. What we're currently doing, what we're also facing in Navua at the moment is that there's a shortage in production versus the demand from customers. So the Pacific Harbour system is currently extended to cater for the shortfall of the Navua source. In terms of a solution to the customers in Navua, we currently have the treatment plant is already in the country. It's a 3 million litre water treatment plant, which we intend to install in Navua to basically cover that gap that we are facing in terms of the shortfall in production versus the demand from customers. In terms of timeline, maybe Seru could...
Certainly. So the water source that we will be using for Navua is an old irrigation dam, Dahlia, that was built and is not really of much use at the moment. So it is a fairly reliable water source. So we have approved the detailed design, which is currently underway. So our expectation is that within the 18 months, we will have the new package plant, 3 MLD, 3 million litres a day, come online, and that will not only address the current sort of issues of intermittency there, but will also provide some supply security for the next 10 years, because the demand, we know that Navua is growing a little bit, but that'll make sure that the future demand is also catered for.
So that's for Navua
and Pacific Harbour. Yes.
There you go, Pacific Harbour residents. 18 months is the timeline given by WEF. You've got a solution on the way. What happens in the interim period, these 18 months?
I think the issue that you call us talking about is not an ongoing issue. It's only happens when there is a rain event. I'm forgetting the name of the water source where we often have an issue in terms of turbidity.
We have issues of turbidity in Nayangi, and also we have issues of turbidity at the Navua intake. The Navua intake is very susceptible to clogging, especially during any rain event. It'll clog. So that is why we then have that shortfall in our production. So basically getting in the treatment plant at the dam that currently exists, that'll give us some leeway. Now treatment production right now is sitting at around 1 million liters a day. We are by putting in the treatment plant, we will increase that by another 2 million liters of production that will resolve that demand shortage.
I have a question, both gentlemen, about turbidity. You know, we never used to have turbidity levels to this level in this country. Now even our people are asking, why so much of turbidity levels? And is there any way to fix it? Can the infrastructure be set up in a certain way that we can fix it? Or what is the cause of it?
So turbidity for the information of for the customer. So turbidity, when we say turbidity, we're referring to the amount of dirt that is present in water, and this dirt normally turns up in the water supply when it rains, especially after a dry spell. When it rains, a lot of dust and silt that has accumulated because of the dry spell, it turns up in the river. These are the things that turns that water brown. And one of the major causes of turbidity is land use above the sources where we extract from. We are mindful that for example, in the Soderburg system, Waimanu River, there's communities who live upstream of our source. There's a few villages, there's a few farms. So when they clear the land, any runoff from these areas, the soil gets into the water. And in terms of actually finding a solution, we've been working for the last few months, looking at our dosing, the chemical dosing for our water supply, to see how best can we utilize chemicals to resolve the turbidity issue. So far, we've been quite successful in a lot of that. There's been a significant rain event over the last few months, and we've managed to resolve the turbidity issues that normally, say, for example, Tamavua would have faced. And this was a chronic issue for Tamavua for a few years. So just by implementing some science behind it, we are starting to find solutions that would help, sort of erase the issue of turbidity. But we can treat turbidity up to a certain level. Anything above that, then we will have to reduce production.
Dr. Chanan, I will say this has been quite a joke here in Suva that when we don't have rain, we don't have water, and when we have a lot of rain, again we don't have water.
I have to admit that one of the most frequent phone calls I get late at night is to tell me that how stupid I am and my people are. It's raining outside and we still don't have water. So it's something that I've faced regularly. But as Seru just explained, that catchment activity impacts on what gets into the river. The other thing is climate change. So what is happening with the rain is the intensity of the rainfall is increasing. When the rainfall intensity is high, heavy, is more intense, it actually erodes more dirt as well. So that is also causing more turbidity in the river system as well. So while we are focusing on our treatment efficiency, we can only go so far. We also need to look at the catchment and what goes on, whether it's gravel extraction or logging upstream. All that has an impact on what gets into the river. With increasing rainfall intensity, it raises the turbidity level. So, and Seru mentioned in terms of applying science, what we're also doing, our hydrology team is looking at building a model of the Waimanu River at the moment that will give us some predictive ability to say, okay, it's raining up in the catchment, this is the rainfall intensity, right now your turbidity level is X, based on the model, by about, in about an hour and a half, you will hit with a high turbid water. So we can actually prepare for it and get ready for it. So that's a model we are currently looking at building, and we are getting some support from MFAT, New Zealand government, some funding that we are likely to get to work on that model, which will help us with the predictive ability to prepare our treatment plan better for that.
Can we work with the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, best farming practices, logging practices, to ensure that you did say that whatever activities that happen upstream have an impact on it? A water authority does not have a time where they can go and do it. Can there be an approach made to some of these ministries to, please, we sometimes held at ransom here by what happens upstream and thousands get affected?
Definitely. So we are doing similar work in Reva River for catchment management. And I think there was some externally funded projects which were ridge to reef projects, which kind of highlighted for everybody that everything that goes on in the catchment has an impact on the water quality. So our certain intention is to involve all the stakeholders in catchment management. In fact, one of the ideas that we're putting forward as part of our discussion paper on future strategy is actually looking at the landholders in the catchments and how we can involve them as part of the sort of water production process, if you like. So by the time the turbid water gets to our treatment plant, it's too late. And all we can do is put lots of chemicals to treat it. But if we can go higher up in the catchment and improve practices there and come up with some sort of pricing and reward mechanism to the land for the landholders to say, okay, if you maintain your land in a way that the water quality is clean, it offsets our treatment costs and we can work up a pricing model. That's the idea we actually came out of the ideation workshop, and we will work on exploring that further, because that will bring stakeholders as part of the treatment chain, and we can come up with a pricing model as well. So there are examples around the world where such things exist, and we would certainly be keen as part of our Water Sector 2050 to put that as part of our operation.
These extra chemicals, any effect to the consumer?
No. They are chemicals that are used for water treatment around the world. They are safe for consumer, but it just increases our treatment costs.
Sanjesh Kumar had messaged in this question. There are many contributors to non-communicable diseases in Fiji. Don't you think WEF is also one of the contributors now? It's their inability to supply water when needed causes tension, stress, blood pressure, and not visiting washrooms on time, leading to kidney problems.
Look, I think water service and wastewater service is an important public health service, and often people forget that water and wastewater certainly is part of actually a public health system for any city. We are acutely aware that by providing safe drinking water, we are helping prevent disease, and our aim is to make sure that we keep improving that service, and we will continue to do so. We see ourselves as allied public health professionals.
Seru?
Yes, I have to agree with CEO on this. We do take note that we provide an important service, and I completely understand where the question is coming from in terms of unnecessary stress on the customers, because there is no water supply at home, and I would have to acknowledge that we would have some part to play in the non-communicable diseases because of our inability to provide the service. But it is also something that we're working on as hard as we can to try and rectify that situation.
Reginald Lutu, his question is, my question is, why hasn't WEF worked and studied hydrology flows in Namosi and started on Nambukavesi Regional Water Project earlier instead of putting all of WEF eggs in one basket, and that is Viria project?
I could probably take the question. We are currently working. We actually have finances in this in the upcoming. We have put forward a proposal to government to actually tap into the river at Wainandoi. We have been engaging that source for the last 10 years. We are aware that it is a viable source. We are now moving into the stage where we are going to develop after the approval is provided by the landowners, of course, we will look into developing that source, and that has also give us a capability of actually providing additional water supply that could feed us provide supply back towards the sewer system, and also extend services down towards Navua. We are actually looking to that space. We are actively seeking government's funding in the upcoming financial year to actually looking into that river in Wainandoi.
There you go, Reginald. Your suggestion is on board already, and work is underway in that area. There's a lot of talk about skilled workers leaving. Dr. Chanan, is Water Authority affected by this?
We are definitely affected by this. Since I've been the CEO, I have lost more than 100 staff, and they are all technically qualified staff, people we can least afford to lose, and they're all, either on their way to Australia or New Zealand. So it is a big issue for us, and we know that in a free market economy, you can't chain people to their desks. And it is going to be hard for us to compete on salary levels as well. So what they get paid in Australia, but what we are doing on sort of to deal with that is investing in knowledge management, investing in in-house training programs. In fact, just on Friday, we launched our in-house training program, and we trained 43 of our staff as trainers to develop a culture which is about knowledge capture and knowledge sharing. Because the reality is that if we will lose people every 3 years or so, we need to have such good knowledge capture and knowledge sharing systems in place that we continue as a business. The other side of thing is we also need to look at our long-term sort of service contracts with service providers who are, who have the critical mass of expertise available. To give you an example, right now as an organization, we've got one electrical engineer left. So there is no critical mass of electrical engineering expertise. So we need to look at contractors or service providers who do have that kind of expertise, so we can have a relationship with them, so that if there is a need for an expert, that's available. So we are looking at all avenues to ensure that our expertise or the critical knowledge needs are catered for, not just today, for into the future as well.
Strategic planning, risk management, succession planning, always very important for organizations. Has WEF been doing that in the past years?
We are working. We actually have our succession planning within WEF, strategic planning as well. For us, the biggest challenge was that the offer from the market, such as Australia and New Zealand, is a lot more lucrative than what we can actually have at WEF. Unfortunately for me, within the space of operations, about 90% of that 100 or so staff is coming from within operations. These are the people who are out there on a day-to-day basis fixing leaks, running the treatment plants, running a lot of our major operational assets. But in terms of progression forward, as spoken to by CEO, we are looking at our trainers to basically, knowledge management is one of the things we're looking into, where we're making sure that each critical personnel that's within the organization, their knowledge is captured, and then that is which will then give us an ability to provide training to those that will come after them, and then that'll avoid that gap that we normally are encountering when people leave the organization.
So what's the immediate impact right now with people leaving? The immediate impact while you're trying to ensure that you rectify and come up with solutions?
So in terms of the people leaving the organization, the immediate impact is just the reduction in manpower is the key, is the biggest impact that we have right now. But we're also in the process of actually carrying out recruitment to cover up these gaps that have currently come in. However, in saying that, what we're also mindful is the fact that those that have left us, these are people that have had 10 years of experience, 15 years of experience. And because water supply and wastewater management is sort of a unique kind of trade, anybody new that we bring into the organization will have to go through the process where we'll have to train them and then provide them with experience by actually having them on the job. Some of our key staff has actually left. These are people within supervisory position, and the level of experience they have is something that you can't learn that on paper. You have to do it day in, day out to actually gather that. So by doing internal promotions, and then we are also recruiting and basically retraining people from scratch to get them experience in the field of water and wastewater management.
Are you worried?
Certainly worried. I mean, the rate at which the talent is leaving, I've never experienced something like that before. And in fact, this was a key topic covered at the National Economic Summit last week as well. And the PS for Finance shared it with everybody that I think Fiji has lost something like 22,000 professionals in the last year. That is a big number. and it's not just an issue for Water Authority of Fiji, it is an issue for Fiji as an economy as well. Certainly something that we all need to collectively look at and find solutions.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Meet Chalesi the businessman. Chalesi is sad because business is bad. Like really bad. He longs for the better times, times of joy. Yeah, colorful times. And now he drowns his pain by listening to some radio.
Listen to it on the Fiji Village app.
Have you booked your booth at Fiji Showcase?
It's back!
Well, what do you know? Fiji Showcase is back! Book a booth for your business now. Don't miss out.
Welcome back. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, Water Authority of Fiji CEO Dr. Amit Chanan and WEF Chief Operating Officer Seru Soderburg, talking about water supply. Let's talk about leaks. Water Authority says more than 47% of water goes down as wastage and leaks. What is being done about this, and what would it take to fix this?
So, in terms of what is being done about this, we do have a NRW team that's focusing on all visible leaks or where we get complaints of leaking pipe to address. But one thing that we need to understand is the rate at which those leaks are appearing a lot faster than the capacity that we have in-house to be able to address those. So our NRW budget at the moment is about $3.5 million. And we need in excess of $9 million to be able to stay at pace with fixing the rate at which those leaks are appearing. We are in the process of developing a performance-based contract to get some international expertise to work with and complement Seru's team in dealing with these leaks. So we will be doing this contract for 3 to 5 years, and the idea of that is just to ramp up the focused effort on reducing leaks, and once we caught up, then we can sustain it on an ongoing basis. There are many other examples around the world, like in Caribbean countries and elsewhere, where their leakage was in excess of 50%. The only way to deal with that is to ramp up effort, invest in dealing with the leakage, and once you've caught up, then you can sustain. So that's the model we're pursuing, and we do have help from Asian Development Bank, and we've got some international experts working with Seru and his team in dealing with it.
Tough ask, the leaks, 47%, keeps you awake at night?
Definitely, like as I said before, it keeps me awake late at night, gets me up early in the morning. It's a tough ask to reduce 47%. What I also like to mention at this point is the reduction of non-revenue water. It's not going to be an overnight thing for us. There's no water utility in the world where they've done it and it's been resolved within the year. It's a slow and steady process that will take a few years, and that is why the performance-based contract that we're going out to market to soon is looking at a 3 to 5 year period where we can basically focus our resources and financing into actually just tackling this issue.
The issue about leaks, 47%. You said there's a gap of best case scenario, 3 million liters of water daily. Today you're talking about 11 million liters of water. You are producing enough water, but you are losing it through leaks as well. If your leaks were minimized, you wouldn't have this situation?
That's correct. So we are losing, right now, today we're losing about 60 million liters in leaks.
In a day?
In a day. So if our pipes were perfectly, functioning and there were no leaks, if we were meeting international benchmarks in terms of pipe networks, we probably will not be having rationing requirement because we would have enough water in the system.
So in a way, our sources are we are getting water, but through the taxpayer-funded produced water is leaking. Almost half is going into the
state of the pipe network is such that we're losing it. And look, what happens with pipes, and it's not just Fiji's problem. It is a global issue because it's out of sight, it's out of mind. The only time you think about it is when you don't have water in the tap to say, okay, we should invest something in that. So that is one of the big challenge with pipe infrastructure is because it's buried. It is not staring people every day, and that's why investment priorities sometimes get forgotten. But I think the message is reaching out, and as Honourable Deputy Prime Minister said in the Parliament, it is a issue that we need to tackle as a nation.
Now, Seru, how much of water generated from Viria? Everybody's talking about Viria is coming online soon. We'll pass through these locations where we have leakages, where we'll again be losing water. So we're saying Viria will be our savior, we'll close the gap, but again we'll be going through these same pipes leaking through?
So Viria will bring online additional 40 million litres per day, which is sufficient amount of volume to deal with the current demand. But you're spot on, with more water in the pipes, with more pressure in the pipes, it is likely that will leak more as well. So we simply cannot afford not to fix the pipe network at the same time. And that is why we are working on that performance-based contract, and we will be going out to more market soon, because we still have to fix the pipe network regardless.
And just to add on to that, with the increased pressures in the system, where as part of the performance-based contract we'll be also heavily investing in assets such as pressure-reducing valves. These are assets that could basically help us control the pressure that goes out into these networks. So we manage the number of leaks that would normally appear if the pressures are not regulated. So under the performance-based contract, that is something we also will be heavily investing in, is the pressure management zoning for not only Suvarnasori, but also the other water supply systems around the country.
Does WEF conduct research on the patterns of population growth, migration over the years to forecast water usage? And how does WEF work with other organizations like Fiji Bureau Stats that are responsible for conducting a census? Because one of the things that is clearly coming out is that Lami-Suvarnasori corridor, we had this population growth where the rural-urban drift and thousands of people moving in compared to maybe 25, 30 years ago, and the infrastructure unable to keep up with the demand that's coming. What is being done now which is different compared to what was done before?
So you're right in terms of Suvarnasori. So when the water sources were built for Suvarnasori, the population of Suva was less than 100,000. Now we have 360,000 plus people living here, and we do not have any new water source or water treatment plant added. So it's a significant, the population has tripled, and we are still using the same sources and same treatment plants. But in terms of meeting the future needs, there certainly was work done in developing the Suva master plan, which is what led to the Viria project, identified a new source, and that is the project that is currently underway, which will bring in additional 40 million litres. And it also has provision for another 40 to take it to 80. So effectively, it does, in terms of volumes of water, caters for decades ahead. But as most water projects, it takes time to plan, it takes time to go to the funding partners, get their funding approvals. So I think it took nearly 10 years for us to get to a point that, yes, we got the money and everything lined up to start production. We need to do exactly that for other major centers as well. And we need to do exactly that for wastewater as well, which is part of the water cycle we don't often talk about. But we do have challenges in wastewater collection and treatment as well, because the population is growing and the wastewater treatment plants are at busting at seams, reaching at their capacity as well. So part of our work on Water Sector 2050 is exactly that, to bring all the stakeholders into one room to say, let's create a collective vision for water and let's look at the type of projects and initiatives and policies and the tariff settings that we need from now to the next 30 years, so that we can actually deliver what is needed, and we're not in the same place in 30 years' time.
We know now that you have some plans in place. Where, I think the question is that, again, one of the first issues that people are asking is, how did we get here? How did we get here? You're saying that we needed to look at, as the population is growing, dams and forward planning. Was the forward planning being done and not addressed, or was there no forward planning?
We do have
there has been forward planning that was done. Master plans have been developed for Suvanosori.
I'm not talking about now, to say, because when were the first systems built in, like for Suvanosori?
1910s.
1910s, yeah. Okay. Then of course that's way back in the day. And then was forward planning done after that, as the population growth happened in the past 25 years ago?
I think there is certainly focus on individual assets. So, for example, Tamavua plant, we looked at, that was built in 1910s, augmented twice. Similarly, Vaila plant was built in 60s, augmented in 80s. In terms of whole of country sort of thinking, in terms of working with all stakeholders and having a sector plan, this is the first time we are actually doing that. So while we did planning, but at an asset level, and the only major master plan was Suvanosori, I suppose, in terms of area project. But looking at whole of country and seeing where the climate change is going to take us in 30 years, what the economy looks like in 30 years, what would the tourism and what the tourists expect from us, all that kind of sort of collaborative thinking, that sector plan. We've never had a water sector plan before, and that's what the Water Sector 2050 is going to do.
Now, long-term planning for updating systems, how much will it cost? Do you think that money will be appropriated? I know you having your discussions at the National Economic Summit level. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance has said Water Authority, wish list is 800 million. I think the summit paper said 780 million. Do you think you'll get the funds appropriated as you're requesting?
Look, I think the National Economic Summit was a great opportunity for all of us to talk about the economic priorities. And as the CEO of Water Authority, I was delighted to see that water did feature in the 14 points that came out in the communique. So I'm quite optimistic and hopeful that that water will get the priority it deserves.
Seru, how much would be needed every year by WEF to maintain the systems once it has been updated?
That's a tough question, in the sense that because the cost, the finances that we have to acquire every year right now it's sitting around 80 million a year just to run the system.
Without any upgrades. And with the 47% leakage.
But as a defined number, I probably cannot provide you with that number right now, but I can definitely say that with the non-revenue water program coming online and us being a lot more efficient with a few other things that we're currently working on, that cost will definitely, the operation cost of the organization will come down year on end to get us to something that's a lot more manageable.
So just to extend that answer a little bit, to give you an idea of rough rule of thumb, our asset base is currently valuation is being done right now, but the notional value that's assigned to our asset base is about 2 billion, and rule of thumb is about 10% of that is what you need every year. So 200 million a year is what you need if the asset base is about 2 billion. But remember, we got Virya coming online, we got lots of areas in Fiji that never had treated water before. We're putting treatment plants. So as the asset base grows, the need to maintain them, to do asset manage them also increases with that. And also remember that our wastewater network at the moment doesn't cover any more than 28% of Fijians. Our wastewater system is only covering 28%. So once that extends, Our wastewater collection network and wastewater treatment will also
needs their piece
Yes,
for WEF
exactly.
to handle that capacity.
Absolutely, yes.
800 million that's been requested for, what is that for?
So that's based
Over
on our
5 years, huh?
yeah, that's based on our existing assets. So we have in the National Infrastructure Investment Program, that 800 million is to renew our existing assets that are reaching end of their life. That is not catering for augmentation or additional capacity or climate resilience. That 800 million is needed just to ensure that the assets that are reaching end of their life are renewed so that they're able to continue providing the service they're meant to provide.
Water cutting is a big issue. I think quite a costly affair now based on all these disruptions. How much of taxpayers' money is going into water cutting per week?
So at its peak, when we have about 50 trucks running, it was costing us about $60,000 a day. It is quite expensive affairs, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, with very little redundancy in the system, the only option we do have is to cart water. And we were going to Korovu and Deumba outside the Seru and Asori system to get water from outside to bring it in and support the Seru and Asori system. And that does cost money. And at its peak, it was about $60,000.
Yep. That's about the number. $60,000 a day is the most that we've spent, and that was just over the last 2 weeks, when production had dropped around 161 megaliters a day for the entire Seru and Asori, and we had 50 trucks running. Spending $60,000 a day from an operational perspective it's a heavy drain on our operational budget. Because it takes money away from other avenues where we could definitely spend that 60,000 to improve something else or upgrade something else that will improve our operational efficiencies. So water cutting cost is something that not only is a financial burden, but it's an operational burden in the sense that we'll have to move money around within our OPEX budget to facilitate the payment of these water cutting runs.
Everything has to be done in phases. I'm sure those who are watching this tonight, they would want to know from you, Dr. Chanan, and you, Seru, what is your very immediate thing that people need to be looking at to prioritize based on if they are not getting water in their taps, or if the elevated areas in Namandi Heights, or be it those in Pacific Harbour, you've given the solution within 18 months. Viria coming on, of course, July will not be the month. I think somebody told me over the weekend, July everything will be fixed. July, as you said, will be then the next phase of commissioning to make sure everything is working. What in the coming months for these areas that are badly affected, what do they expect?
Look, I think first of all, I do acknowledge the disruption and the frustration people experience when they wake up and there's no water in the tap. And of course, when someone gives the bad news, as I often am giving, you have two choices. You can get instant gratification by shooting the messenger, or listen to the message and do something about it. And what I appeal first is to listen to the message, which is, we can fix this, but we do need time and investment. With those two things, we can fix this. In terms of the fix that is happening, Viria project construction will complete in July. And from that point on, once we start to commission the plant, we will find that the volume of water will be enough to deal with all the intermittent supply issues. So between now till Viria gets commissioned, please work with us in terms of using water wisely. Take heed of our prohibition notices in terms of don't wash your cars, don't wash hard surfaces. In terms of water rationing, we are making sure that you do get water 6 hours a day to make sure that the morning peak is taken care of. So please work with us in dealing with these unusually dry conditions, and with time, with these key projects that are underway, things will get better. We just need investment and time. That's all we need, and do work with us.
Sure.
So echoing the same sentiments as the CEO, I have to acknowledge that the disruption to water supply to customers, especially in the Suvanasori, has been something that has been plaguing or has been chronic for the Suvanasori system. I have to apologize as head of operations to the customers out there that we are coming up short in terms of service delivery to them, but please be rest assured that we are working on resolving this issue. The government has been providing us with support in that sense, that they will be providing funding for some of the key areas that we would need investment in to resolve these issues in the Suvanasori system once and for all. And as mentioned by the CEO, during the commissioning period, that is the time we will be reworking the Rewa Delta Nosori system to make sure that when the Virya system is fully operational, that we remove intermittent supply areas. We make sure that its customers is receiving the supply that we had stated in our customer charter that we will provide, which is 10 meters of pressure at the outlet of the meter. Those are the things that we will be working on over the coming weeks and months to make sure that we work towards resolving this issue that is facing predominantly the Suvanasori system and the Lami areas.
Thank you, Seru, and thank you, Dr. Amit. That's your show for tonight. Your answers right here on water supply issues, and we will extend the invitations again to Water Authority of Fiji CEO and Chief Operating Officer to come at regular intervals to share with you how processes are underway to ensure that you are well briefed, well updated on this basic need that we have. Until next time, have a good evening.